At the time, some of these shots felt like the best footage I had ever made. But while making videos for this channel, I kept going back to my old Iceland clips. And the more I used them, the more I felt that something was missing. The shots were not bad, but many of the grades fell flat, soft, too warm, or simply unfinished. So I finally decided to regrade them from scratch. Same camera, same location, same files, but a completely different result. The first thing I noticed when I started regrading this footage was that a lot of my clips were too flat. The contrast was just not there, and I completely understand why this happened. I was focusing on keeping the image natural. I didn't want to achieve this digital look, this video style. I wanted it to feel like a film, but this way I actually kept the contrast too low most of the times, and those were good instincts. But the problem was that I was losing a lot of the impact of those shots. The depth was gone, they were not having this kick, especially for social media, this vibrance, and I can see a lot of improvements that could have been done to make it more impactful at first glance. The next thing I noticed is that a lot of my grades were built on weak foundation, and it's where everything else gets much harder. I mean proper exposure and proper white balance. Those things can completely ruin the rest of color grading. One of the most obvious moments is when you add saturation and whole image becomes too yellow, for example. That probably means that you didn't balance the image in the first place. And then I started adding more and more corrections to fight the problems that I created earlier, and I didn't even know about it. So now I do it completely differently. First, before I start grading, I create a clean base. I use vector scope and offset to balance the image and make it darker or brighter, and then I have a perfect, clean, natural base that sometimes looks worse, but that's just the start. The mood and the rest you add later. So when I compare the old versions with the new ones, I'm actually completely surprised because the new ones look much better, but those are very simple grades and are much less complicated than the old ones. Another thing that I noticed is that I used advanced tools too early, especially HDR wheels. And I thought that, yeah, I know I shouldn't use them too much, but I have everything under control. I didn't have. It made some of my midtones completely flat and some of my shadows completely flat as well. The depth was gone. Instead of fixing the whole image first and then focusing on details, I tried to refine each part individually. So I tried to shape the sky, the midtones, the shadow, and I was not advanced enough to fix everything. So I would advise you to start with the basics. Make your image balanced, then contrast, saturation, maybe some sharpness, and that will be probably it. If you want to target a specific part of your image, add it as a last step and not while building the main contrast. It will make a very big difference. Another thing that I would change now is how I created warmth or overall mood. Of course, I use temperature and it's easy and it sometimes gives great effects, but the problem with using temperature is that it shifts the whole image into, for example, the yellow. So the highlights get warmer, the midtones get warmer, and the shadows get warmer. The main thing that you want to avoid is this yellow filter effect, where the footage starts looking unbelievable. The fix is to use color wheels instead of the temperature slider. There you can target shadows, midtones and highlights separately. The last lesson is the simplest one, but it definitely shocked me the most. Some of my old grades were missing just one final sharpness touch, and I think that it looks amazing now. The connection of cinematic softness and this super sharp bite is great. It connects two worlds and make them work together. But there are few things that you have to watch out for with sharpness. First, you do it after your color grading, to be a final effect and not something before contrast saturation. That's the first thing. The second thing, you can't overdo it. It's very simple, there is just one slider, but if you make it too sharp, it will fall apart, it will look worse, and it won't feel like a cinema camera anymore, more like a cheap smartphone. Also, I noticed that the sharpening could fix some of my slightly defocused shots, and it was just enough to make them usable. If you want to learn more about color grading mistakes that you can do, check out this video next. I go through mistakes that can make your footage look amateur, fake or too digital. Thanks for watching, and remember, let your films be shot by reality.